Oh, it looks like we're live.
Boom. Hey, how are you doing out there, entrepreneurs? Welcome. You are tuned in to the Non-Corporate Network. My name's Chaz Vandemotter,
Dustin Trout.
and you are tuned in to the show that the New York Times is calling the best news show ever created. It's high praise from an institution like that, Dustin. I'm pretty flattered that they came out and put that on the front page of their website.
It blew my mind.
It's humbling. It's humbling. Do you want to tell them a little bit about the format for what we're doing here on Entreprenews?
Yep, Entreprenews. So we take 6 of the top business headlines that have happened in the last day or two, and we simply debate them for 3 minutes apiece. Chaz gives his take. I give my take. Usually the better take, but
yeah, you're right. I am usually the better take. That's what you're saying, right?
But yeah, the whole goal is to deliver top business news in the modern day way. So you don't have to tune in to CNBC at 7 a.m. to stay up to date on the news. We go live. We push them out onto our Facebook page, on YouTube, and everything like that. So you can kind of consume whenever you want, make it convenient for you.
This is content by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. And, you know, in a time where people are wondering what kind of news outlet to turn to, who they can believe, what things are relevant to them. If you are a small business owner and you're looking for a source of unfiltered, unbiased news, then you found us. Congratulations. Here we are. We're excited to be with you on this Monday morning, getting started. And with that, I think we're about ready to jump into the first story. What do you think, Dustin?
Yeah, let's dive right in on this glorious Monday morning.
Let's make it happen. Okay, so facial recognition is a big point of debate right now with everything that's going on. The ACLU actually just sued a company called Clearview AI that has been data mining over 3 billion pictures of faces from across the internet. Over 45 different companies boast that they have very robust facial recognition databases. And obviously, this is kind of a threat in terms of data security and privacy. We know that facial recognition is now something that's not only unlocking your device, but unlocking your bank accounts, unlocking very sensitive information. And, you know, when all of those databases of facial recognition software is in the hands of companies, then, and there's no laws or regulations really around what you can be doing with that, you know, obviously it can be a threat. What are your thoughts on this story, and where do you think we need to go with facial recognition in order to avoid having like another Cambridge Analytica?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of just overall facial recognition, I mean, I absolutely love it. I didn't think it'd be that big of a deal whenever it went from the thumbprint to facial recognition, but I mean, less friction. Just hold the phone up, boom. I'm into whatever apps I need, whatever it may be. On the other end, the building up databases, I mean, if you don't have the consent of the consumer, that's where I think companies might be in the wrong. I mean, we've been discussing it quite a bit. Is it right? Is it not right to be building, a data pool on people? I think,
Right.
I'm always for you sign the terms and conditions, but it sounds like they're building databases even outside of terms and conditions and just kind of doing it. I mean, you could easily set up a camera outside or whatever it may be and just start building a database of pictures. I mean, I think it's good for efficiency. I don't know what it looks like on the security side, whether facial recognition is more secure than a thumbprint. But I mean, as long as the security is still there, I think it's just more regulation that I think needs to happen, and a conversation not just around facial recognition, but just how data is collected, used, more transparency for the consumer. I mean, for right now, we're not there, so I'm all for, hey, you signed up for the terms and conditions, so we're collecting. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, there's a lot of different police organizations that have access to robust networks of facial recognition as well. Obviously, I'm sure they've digitized things like mugshots into digital databases. And so I know that, there was an issue in Hong Kong with protesters where their public cameras that were set up were actually grabbing facial recognition data and tracking the people that were showing up to protest, just like anybody that showed up and their face was scanned. And so I think that, that's when we start to get into this kind of post-apocalyptic, dicey, really futuristic society that I don't really think anybody wants to be living in fear of showing their face when they're doing something. And so, having cameras just set up all over the place to track our every move, I think that, there's always going to be the argument that can be made, oh, this is safer. Oh, we're going to stop crime or we're going to stop somebody from, being able to steal a car. But it's like, I look at that and I think there's just as many risks to our freedom and, our rights as Americans. And so, my thought is always data has been weaponized over and over again. Like I said, Cambridge Analytica, taking Facebook data, the things that we like, the things that that can kind of push us and change our opinions are taken and then creatively used to essentially sway elections. And so what kind of things can you do if you have access to facial recognition? I'm sure that, if you can get into people's bank accounts, access their personal records, like there's just threats. And I can't say that I'm super trustworthy of large corporations that have billions of faces on file.
Well said.
Yeah. But, I think that, again, it just needs to be some rules that are put into place. We always wait until a precedent is set and something bad happens to make a decision about how we should police it. And it's like, I think that's backwards. Let's start with the legislation, and then it'll just bring more clarity to the businesses and what they're legally allowed to do.
Absolutely.
Is that time on that story?
We're a few minutes over on time, but
oh gosh,
all good thoughts, Chaz.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't hear the timer go off. I was just getting so into it. Okay. The Postal Service is struggling right now. I mean, seems like it's been something that's been talked about since early 2000s in terms of should the Postal Service go private? Is the government doing a good job of using tax dollars to keep them alive and keep them relevant? Obviously, you have companies like Amazon, UPS, FedEx that are all seem to be more efficient than the USPS. But one thing that was mentioned to me, and I thought it was interesting, is that a lot of people are going to be sending in their voting, their ballots, their absentee ballots via mail with the election and everything that's going on, polls sketchy with coronavirus. What are your thoughts in terms of having an entity like the USPS continue to stay active, especially when sensitive information like people's votes that they're casting are going to be going through that organization? I feel like they're the most unbiased of the opportunities or the alternatives.
Yeah, no, I hear on all fronts. I mean, anything the government touches seems to go bankrupt. They don't have really good process whenever it comes to money and being profitable. That's not the name of their game. But I think there's tons of opportunity for a private company to come in and kind of take over the USPS. I mean, you bring up great points on the mail-in ballots. Obviously, with the election coming in November, I think it would be way too big of a change to try and haul that off to someone in the private sector. But I think there's a lot of logistics, transparency, policy that can be created to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. Brought it up last week, lobbying. I mean, I would hate to see a company go private, a lobbying company come in and then kind of dictate how things can be sent via mail. But I think that, it's just a big burden on taxpayers to continue to let the USPS be a thing. But I think there are a lot of things to think about before making that big move.
Yeah, they're talking about eliminating over 200,000 positions. They actually have, I don't understand why this was done, but I was reading that they put this cash injection in where they've already fronted the retirement of up to 75 years in advance. People haven't even been born yet. They've already started their retirement funds. It's like, I don't know if that seems kind of backwards compared to a normal organization. So I'm not really sure what they're doing with the budget, but I think that, you bring up a good point in terms of changing things, trying to fix it before the election is going to be kind of dicey. But something needs to change because it seems like they've been on the rocks for years. I mean, since 2005, this has been a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I don't know what the exact details are, but they give a huge discount to Amazon. I mean, obviously they ship quite a bit, but it's I mean, if you're coming in the private sector, I mean, there's no way you can get those rates, and so it's like, so why should Amazon get such a discount at the taxpayer's expense? Yeah, I think there's a
Yeah.
lot to be done, for sure.
Tax
But
Amazon more and put it into the USPS. Why are we not? Ask them for some help. Well, into our next story, kind of sticking on the Amazon wave, Slack and Amazon have announced a partnership to compete with Microsoft Teams and Zoom. This is mind-boggling to me. I mean, these are four big players, especially in the B2B productivity space. And Amazon is obviously known more as an e-commerce play, and so the comparison may seem a little bit apples to oranges, but I look at Slack having a lot of the same things that Microsoft Teams does. And when you look at a comparison between Zoom and Amazon, you start to think, well, I'm sure that Amazon can come out with a product to compete with Zoom overnight. I mean, with AWS, they do so much. I can't imagine that it wouldn't be a huge. I'm sure they've been working on this in the background, and that's why they're announcing this partnership. But yeah, what do you think about what do you think about Slack and Amazon teaming up? Do you think that's a good strategy? What do you think is going to come of that?
yeah, I mean, Slack in terms of instant communication that's text based. I mean, they're definitely at the top of the game. Amazon,
Yeah,
top of the game in whatever they do. But I
yeah,
mean, the competition they're going against, I mean, there isn't a whole lot of competition. I mean, this is almost like the major leagues versus not even minor leagues, but youth baseball type of stuff. I mean, Slack is definitely killing it. Amazon, I think this is a huge calling out to the world that they're about to enter the B2B communication space, video conferencing space. So,
right,
I mean, I think it's huge. It's, as we've mentioned, work from home is going to continue to increase. It's not going to go back to where it was. So some type of suite that allows you to do video conferencing, instant chat. I mean, Slack integrates to so many different apps that, I mean, it can
right,
communicate seamlessly. I mean, we use it for our project
right.
management tool. Anytime a task is done or commented on that's towards you, you get a notification in Slack. I mean, I think they're going to kill it. And I think it's just going to make the workplace communication that much better. But I mean, what are your thoughts? I know that you're big on Amazon growing too big. I mean, do you think this is an
Yeah,
Amazon company, or should it be spun off as a whole different company?
yeah, that's what I'm looking at it going, how are we going to make the claim that this is part of an e-commerce product? Like, it's not at all. Video conferencing does not tie into buying a pair of socks online. I just don't understand. But what I will say is that Slack, this is huge for them because Amazon will become their biggest client by far through the course of this. Right now, it's IBM. That is going to, IBM is going to look like the minor leagues compared to Amazon being onboarded with hundreds of thousands of employees. So I think that for Slack, it is a catalyst of growth. And like I said, the integration is the name of the game in the B2B communication space. And I mean, Zoom has kind of fallen behind, in my opinion, in terms of integrations. They seem to be a very siloed platform. So I think it'll be interesting to see just how powerful those integrations tie into the other business suites and being able to communicate seamlessly while also having your CRM or your dashboard or whatever it is, your nucleus as a business. I'm definitely optimistic that this could be a great partnership, but again, doesn't seem like an Amazon company to me. I think that this should be a spinoff. This should be a separate entity in their portfolio.
Cool. Yeah, only time will tell. So we will see. On
Yeah.
to the next story. So corporate America struggles to figure out what to say or what not to say. I mean, with riots going on, Black Lives Matter, police brutality, just standing up for police. I mean, there's so many different things going on that it's like, if you take a stance, 50% of the people are going to love you, 50% are going to hate you. I mean, I've been hearing a lot in meetings. What do we stand for? What should we say? Should we not say? I think more than anything right now is a time to, instead of focus on what to say, what not to say, is go back to your core values and who is it that you're
Yeah.
serving, and does your messaging align with your core values? I think from the biggest thing out of all this on the corporate and business side is really, what is it that you stand for as a company? Who are you trying to serve as a
Right.
company? What value do you bring to the world as a company? And does that expand out into your messaging? I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you think companies should take a stand, should say something, or how should companies navigate this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that with this whole social media society and everybody kind of wanting to throw shade on you if you don't say something, and then microanalyze something that you do say, try to bring up and dig up all sorts of stuff that maybe was said years ago. I mean, it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation. And like you said, I think that it has to go back to the values you have as an organization and the people that you're trying to serve. But I think that with everything that's going on, the way that I kind of describe it is your brand lives in the mind of your consumer in a very, very concise way. And it's not gonna they're not gonna remember some 3-paragraph essay that you published. They're gonna remember the actions that you back of what you stand for, and really kind of what your mission and values is in a 1 to 3 words. And so people have this kind of feeling of what your brand stands for. And so I look at this and I go, we're all going crazy with everything that's happened. Your brand should have been being built this entire time and what it stands for. You shouldn't be having to make a stance right now. The things that you have done leading up to this point should be backing, what we do from here. I don't think that brands need to take a 180 and completely shift what they stand for, or the values that you had initially just weren't good enough. So, especially like I said, with social media kind of spinning everything, and instantly when you press post, it's going to be across the world and everyone's going to be having their own 2 cents on it. It's not as much about people pleasing as it is about, you should have aligned your business with your values from the get-go, and there shouldn't really be a huge change here. I mean, like, you can stand in support of these organizations, maybe make a donation and show your support. But I'm kind of disappointed in corporations that they're kind of trying to shuffle around to figure it out, because it's like you should already have
You should
you
already
should
know
already
it.
be standing for these things. Yeah.
Yep. No, well said. I think you hit the nail on the head. Figure out who you are. I mean, now shouldn't be the time to figure it out. You should already know it. So if you're questioning, now should be a time to take a step back and work on that brand identity a bit.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
On to our next
Yeah.
story. So Friday, the Dow Jones closed at 829 in the positive. It's up like over 350 points right now. I mean, things just keep going up and seems to look more like a V-shaped recovery, all while there are increases in COVID cases. I know I saw Arizona had like a 3-day high. I can't remember what hospital. They just announced that they're close to capacity in the ICU. Obviously, riots
Yeah.
are still happening. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on the way that the market is going compared to how real life is going? Is there a disconnect, or do you think the stock
Yeah.
market is looking past all this and knows that all this might only be a couple weeks? I mean, what are your thoughts?
I'm hoping that there's not a bubble that's being built right now that isn't sustainable. I mean, we talked about this in the last story. It's like, great, there's 2.5 million jobs compared to what we thought was going to be worse, but there's 40 million people that were unemployed, and we've printed trillions of dollars. So we've devalued our currency that we're now inflating through the stock market. It's just like, I think that it's just it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me how much things are rising in the speculative kind of environment that the stock market permutates is something that I think is a risk. I think that 2.5 million jobs came back. Great. I look at this and I see that 1 in 3 teens are still unemployed. The youth is unemployed. And then I also think the disproportionate jobless rate between African Americans and whites, 12.4% of white people are unemployed. almost 17% of African Americans are unemployed. I think that there's still so much work to be done. And like you mentioned, the protests are causing more outbreaks of coronavirus, which is stopping businesses from staying open. It's making more people shut down. I mean, it just blows my mind that we're not focused more on small businesses. We're just looking at the Dow Jones and going, great, the top 100 companies are doing awesome. But 30% of small businesses are closing their doors. And I think that's a much bigger problem than let's keep pumping up the Dow Jones. I mean, before long, there's going to be such a barrier to entry to start a business because of the lack of capital and the lack of funds available that it's going to be a mess.
Yeah, and like we talked about, Friday of last week, that there are people saying this is the biggest time for the wealth gap or generational wealth, being redistributed,
100%.
where you have, sure, the top 500 companies are killing it, which is, causing the Dow Jones to increase, but there's a lot of small business that are failing, which makes us wonder, are there only going to be, 5 stores to shop at after this rather than having, quite a bit? Well, then, the monopolies start to rise. Will there just be, less competition, which is never good for the consumer? I mean, one thing that saw this morning is a number to look at is the P&E price per earnings continues to go up, which looks like, the dot-com bubble many years back. But I mean, it's where we saw huge increases, but it wasn't backed by earnings. And at the end of the day, that's how the stock market should work. And we just haven't seen earnings correlate at the rate that the stocks keep going up. So only time will tell.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well
on
said.
to our next one, ActiveCampaign. So it's they're more of an email service, kind of like MailChimp, but they've launched a new app that allows you to do everything on your phone. Essentially, you can create email campaigns. They do have a CRM type of service, so you can check in on your leads, your contacts, everything on an app. They do live chat onto websites. Basically, they're trying to create on-demand communication that lives all on your phone. Their goal is to make getting work done more accessible on your phone, so that way you're not tied to a desk, a desktop, whatever it may be. But that you can go out and actually do stuff and still be able to be productive and get stuff done on the phone. I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you think we'll continue down this route and pretty soon we'll have no offices, no desktops, and everything will be done mobilely?
Well, there's 3 types of software out there. You have your tools, you have your apps, you have your platforms. Tools, I think, are something that can exist on mobile or on desktop. An app is something that's more mobile, and a platform is something that's more desktop oriented. And so I think that the shift of even creating apps, I mean, that started to become a thing, 2012, 2013, started to catch a lot of traction. And so we've been seeing this shift over the last 7 or 8 years to mobile. But I'm not convinced that, all softwares are something that you want to use on your desktop. My personal feeling is that I think that these platforms, we talk about your CRMs, your email cadence creators and things like that, are something that I almost look at as I'd rather transition into maybe a headset or something where I still have this kind of malleable feel where I'm not kind of limited to just my phone. That definitely is going to decrease some of the what you can do on your phone compared to desktop. But I do agree that in certain instances, I mean, we talk about like just responding to emails and things is becoming more and more mobile friendly, more and more prevalent on mobile. And so I think there is going to continue to be a shift to mobile, but I'm not convinced that some of these more advanced platforms can make that shift. It just doesn't seem comfortable to me to try to navigate very complex softwares using my mobile device.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen all the Zoom memes and commercials, people trying to get on and whatnot. I mean, it's a huge step to get people more digitized, but I think that's a bit too far in the advance. I mean, like I mentioned, there's something that I read the other day where someone, with the evolution of apps, there's a handful of things that they can get done while doing an hour walk in the woods that they had to do in the office. And so I think we're getting to the point where it is more mobile. I mean, to be able to go out for an hour, need time block maybe an hour a day where all you do is respond to emails. And in that hour, you can go and walk, go to the gym, whatever it may be, on a treadmill. But I think we are going to get to a point to where it is you're going to be able to get more done on your phone.
Right.
I mean, I loved whenever the Google Analytics and Google Ads mobile app came out. I mean, granted, you can't do much with them other than look at the data, but still, it's
That's
awesome.
half the battle. That's half the battle, is being able to read the analytics. Yeah. So I think anything that's going to increase the tether from our desktop is going to be great for mental health. It's going to be great for our physical health. And I'm excited I'm rooting for them. But yeah, I'm definitely tempered in my expectations of what's possible on a mobile device compared to a desktop.
Awesome.
Sweet. Well, these have been some fun stories. I'm fired up, especially to see that Slack to Amazon, collaboration. And if you guys are looking to collaborate with other businesses, Avantage.com, it's a collaboration platform. So if you are trying to find an accountant, you're trying to find another small business that provides a service that is relevant to your business, get it on trade. If you don't want to use capital, especially now with everything that's happened, get it on trade. But thank you, Avantage, for sponsoring us. And if you guys sign up for Avantage, you get $150 free credit towards your first order. So definitely check them out if you're a small business owner. Great platform, thousands of Phoenix businesses on there. So yeah, and thank you guys for supporting us. Anything else you want to add, Dustin?
No, appreciate you tuning in. If you have extra time, go to Advantage. But yeah, appreciate you tuning in and looking forward to Wednesday.
Yeah. And if you guys want to start your own show on the Non-Corporate Network, we are accepting inquiries. Check us out, ncnbroadcast.com. If you want to become a sponsor, we also have some access for you there, so you can submit inquiry to us. But yeah, we want to work with you. And if you're a small business owner, again, thank you for tuning in. Send us in stories. If there's things that you want to hear us talk about, if there's interesting stories that come across your desk that you want to share with us, we are all ears. We're fired up to be back here on Wednesday. And this is fun, man. I appreciate it. But enough hearing from us. You guys got work to do. You got things to do. We know you're not sitting at the cubicle or standing by the water cooler. You're getting work done. So we appreciate you being with us and supporting our mission. But again, you are tuned into the Non-Corporate Network. You have been watching Fill in the Blank. Once again, my name is Chaz Vandemeyer.
Entreprenews.
And it's Entreprenews, not fill in the blank. I've got this this habit still, but Entreprenews.
The joys of rebranding, right?
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook. I think they're linked down there. So take a look and yeah, let us know if you have feedback. We want to get involved and get in touch with you. But thank you.
On that note,